Hey, welcome to Viking Preparedness. I'm Pastor Joe Fox. I'm walking around what's going to be pasture. We have a work day coming up, and I'm going to clear some of this out with the brethren to increase our pasturage. And so I'm just checking it out to see what I'm going to tell people. When we do work days, the person whose place where we're doing the work day, they're kind of in charge and have to direct the effort. And usually what happens is they feel guilty. You know, you're clearing the pasture here, and so I want to, help do the hard things. And it's like, well, someone's got to be in charge. And so when we go to other places and I see, we work with other people, and they're like, all right. I'm like, hey, you need to step over there and keep your eye on all the moving pieces here because lots of things are going on at once. When we're here, we're going to be chopping trees, lopping brush, burning stuff. There'll be a lot going on. Anyway, somebody commented the other day about when I was, feeding my birds. I want to look around at stuff, but I can't do that and keep my train of thought and talk to you, so I'll just talk to you. When I was feeding my birds, and they said, hey, what's your plan for feeding your chickens, when there's no TSC to go get feed at? That's a good question. When we lived in Kansas at High Prairie Acres, I thought about that. And I thought, okay, what I'm going to do is till up about an acre of my land and plant milo. When we moved there around 2000-ish, there was a lot of milo being planted. And milo looks kind of like amaranth. Looks kind of like corn with a big seed head on it, and it's all these little seeds. And it was grown mostly for animal feed, right? And so I met my neighbor. He had a tractor and a bunch of discs on the back. And I said, hey, can I borrow your tractor? And he said, yeah. And so I went and I disced up an acre of pasture that we had. And we were new on the land, so I didn't really understand my land that well at the time. And man, that's the first time I noticed how the soil just turned black. When you flipped it over, it was just nice black soil. So I disced it up, ran back and forth, put rows in it. And then I went to the feed store where all the farmers bought their seed corn and their soybeans and stuff like that to plant. That's not exactly true because a lot of them did like the Monsanto crap, Cargill. Anyway, I went to the feed store and I said, hey, I want to buy, 50 pounds of Milo. And my plan was I had a little, it's like this bag on a strap that you wear and you put seed in it and you turn this crank handle and it spits seed out. It's a really fast way of scattering seed. And there's a lot of deer sign back here. And I was going to do that. It was just going to kind of grow willy-nilly. And then I planned on harvesting it in the fall, late summer, with a scythe. And I was just going to cut the seed heads off, and I thought that I would store them, because I'd let them dry on the stalk. That's what you do. And then I would just store them in like galvanized trash cans. And then I would use that to feed my chickens. That was the plan. And then once you grow the first crop, you'll have enough seed to do it again year after year after year, right? So that was my self-sustainability plan for the chickens. Well, after I turned up all that soil, I went to the feed store to buy Milo, and there was none to be had. They had decided they weren't planting Milo in Kansas anymore, and it was outrageous because when we first moved there, it was everywhere. And, I wasn't that good on the internet back then, and I don't even know if Amazon existed in 2000 to order it from. But anyway, we didn't plant Milo. No, just let the grass grow back up. Now we're here. What's the plan? Until that question was asked, I honestly, so thank you, I hadn't really given it a whole lot of thought. But I have since then, last 2 days. We grow a prodigious amount of sunflowers here. And the seeds in the sunflower itself are too small for humans to, shell and spit out and do all that stuff. They're really little. And the birds just love them, right? And so we just grow them. They look pretty. They provide shade on the side of the house and for the chicken run. And then the wild birds come and eat them all. So one thing I would do is I would harvest those flower heads with the seeds in it, dry them, save them, not let the wild birds eat them, save them for my birds. Another thing, I feed our chickens grain every day. Go out there and feed them grain in the morning. I left somebody else here in charge of Shofar Mountain for, 3 weeks. A couple years ago, I left and said, hey, watch our chickens. And they said, okay. And I came back and I said, hey, how much do I owe you for feed? Because there was like a full bag of feed in where we keep the chicken feed. And he said, nothing. I'm like, come on, man, because this guy had no money. He said, I didn't use any. That's the feed you left here. I'm like, and the chickens all looked fine. I said, what'd you feed them? Because I didn't feed them anything. I just let them out every day and put them back in at night. They free ranged. We have so many bugs and things here that you don't need to feed your birds here in the summer. And then I got to thinking, there's a lot of bugs here until about November. And then from November to into March, there's not a whole lot of bugs. Starting in March, there's enough bugs for the chickens to eat. Well, between November and March, there's still seed heads on grass, and there's just stuff. They're constantly, I feed them in the morning, they come out and eat it, and then they sometimes leave food on the ground, and they just go walk around pecking at stuff all over the place. So I think a combination of doing a little bit of, maybe gathering some grass, the big heavy seed heads of grass, putting that, drying it, putting that aside for the cold days of winter, saving the sunflower heads, and acorns, crushing up acorns and feeding them. I think that'll work. And speaking of acorns, this spring we're probably going to get into turkeys, heritage breed turkeys. They look kind of like wild turkeys, and evidently they're awesome at free ranging. Wild turkeys really like acorns, and we have acorns out the wazoo, just everywhere. So that and the very little kitchen scraps when you scrape your plate, we give them that now most of the time, either them or the dogs. So I think that will work. That's our plan. Another option, but it probably won't affect us because it's just not our lifestyle. But during the Great Depression, evidently, everybody had chickens, yard birds. People would drive around with a bucket and a shovel in their truck or their car, and when they saw roadkill, they'd scoop it up, bring it home for the birds to eat or the dogs. If things get that bad, I don't really see us driving around. But I can see myself shooting possums and critters, and there's a technique, and we did it once and it worked pretty good, but I just got tired of it and didn't want to maintain it. You take a 5-gallon bucket, so here's the bucket, here's the bottom of it, and it goes up on the sides like this, and you drill holes about this high up along the edge on the side of the bucket, bore holes about that big, all the way around it. And then you throw a piece of roadkill in there, a dead possum, dead skunk. Throw it in there, and you lift it up about 10 feet up above the chicken run, where the chickens are. And underneath it, you lay a piece of like corrugated metal. You lift it up 10 feet because that thing's about to start stanking. And if it's up about 10 feet, it's blowing up there, not down here where we are. And what happens is water fills up, and body fluids and whatever, as this thing decomposes in there, it fills up about this high in it, but there's still rotting critter above that. And then it gets infested with maggots, right? And the maggots they reach like critical mass, and they just start pouring out of those holes. And when they fall out of the holes, they hit the metal, and it goes ding, 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 ding. And the birds hear it, and they're just on it like white on rice. And that's protein for the birds. And so, yeah, we would probably do something like that to, do everything that we can But that's our plan. It was a good question. I appreciate it. I know someone's probably going to say, because I was talking about them, what are you going to feed your dogs? I think some people think I'm kidding when I say we're going to feed our, people say, what are you going to do if people show up at Shofar Mountain? And my joke is, my dog's got to eat. Yeah, bad people are going to get fed to we won't eat them. That's gross. I'm not a cannibal. My dog's got to eat. So that's one thing. Roadkill. We don't eat squirrels or rabbits or anything like that. And we have a lot of them here. So yeah, that. I want to start. We tried to do it. I want to raise rabbits just for the dogs to eat. And I've raised rabbits very successfully in the past. I had a meat factory when we lived at High Prairie Acres when we used to eat rabbits. So I know how to do it the modern way. Raising rabbits the modern way. Did you hear that? It was like a whoop. Anyway, we tried to do it kind of half wild rabbits. That didn't work, and then I learned why. But yeah, rabbits. That's a plan for the dogs too. Hey, I got to go see what that sound was. Kind of investigate things, and y'all take it easy. Keep the questions coming. I'll see you out there.